Hi there, welcome to this algebra tutorial. Today we'll talk about factor by grouping. Factor by grouping works when you have a polynomial with 4 different terms, like the one shown here, and it must be set equal to 0. So the first thing we check is, do my first 2 terms have something in common? And then lastly, we ask, do we have anything in common among the last 2 terms? Well, we do. So I have an x squared in common in the first 2 terms, so I'm going to factor that out. When I factor an x squared out of x cubed, I'm left with an x. And out of the 2x squared, I'm left with a 2. Now, what's in common between these last 2 terms? They both have a 4, but in fact, they both have a negative 4. So I'm going to factor out a negative 4, and I write that as minus 4. And then in parentheses, I'm left with a positive x and a positive 2. Now, notice that what is in parentheses matches, and these must match. In order for factor by grouping to work, what's left here in your parentheses must match. If not, check to make sure that you factored correctly. Now this next step is key. You take what's in the parentheses and what's out of the parentheses and group them together. So for instance, the next step looks like x squared minus 4. That's what I double underlined. And then the x plus 2 is what's squiggly underlined, and I set that equal to 0 still. And then I can go forward and I can individually factor each set. So for instance, I have x squared minus 4 equals 0. Well, I know that that's a difference of squares, and I can set that as x plus 2, x minus 2 equals 0. And then as a result, I know that x could be negative 2 or x could be positive 2. And those are possible results for x. And then I come back over to this term, my x plus 2 equals 0, and that gives me another x equals negative 2. So I actually have negative 2 with a multiplicity of 2, and then positive 2. And now it's important to go back and check that each of those will work in your original equation to make sure that they were in fact solutions to our polynomial. And as long as when you plug them in you get 0, they do in fact work. And when I check each of these, the negative 2 works, and so does the positive 2. So good luck. Try this out with another example, or check out some of the other videos that we have on other types of factoring here on this YouTube channel. Good luck!